and welcome to the Shakedown. I am your host, Ryan Forbes, aka Rainforest, here again with Malone, Dave, and the Instagram favorite, Nina, who will be making random appearances throughout the show. And we just, on this episode, we already kind of started before the show. We are discussing intersectional issues, including racism, that go along with imprisonment and policing. So basically, any issue, whether it's racism or sexism or disabilities, and how those
Who has those disabilities, Ryan?
People who are.
Don't answer that.
Okay, I'm not going to answer. No matter what, basically, all of these issues like racism, sexism, and everything, and how they can be made worse by prison or worse by bad policing, and then whether or not we need to focus on the race aspect or the sexism aspect or whatever, or the different aspect, or do we need to focus on something else? And to start off the conversation, I was saying I don't focus on the race aspect. Like when I talk about the criminal justice system and what needs to change, I don't focus on the race, gender, sexism, disabilities. I don't, because the problem isn't there with race, gender, sex, disability, whatever the intersectional issue is. Does prison make it worse? Yes, absolutely. Does policing make it worse? Yes. The problem with the prisons is the idea that we should put people into cages and just leave them there and forget about them. That's the problem. And then the same thing with policing. The problem is that we need to arm people and then send them off to look for problem people, send them off looking for problems. And the problems with the courts is that you have a DA versus your defendant, and it's one's right, one's wrong, and who do we blame? And it's winner take all, basically. So what's that?
And that whole battle in the courtroom really is not even about right or wrong. It's about which lawyer can outwit the other. It's just like a chess game between lawyers.
Right.
The DA and the prosecuting attorney and the defense attorney. Because they don't give a shit about the people they're defending, and they don't give a shit about the people that are getting prosecuted. To them, it's just a number, it's a statistic. So, it's just crazy.
That is the problem. That right there is a great description of the problem. And I feel like displaying the number, saying that, whatever race is disproportionately affected, or whatever gender or whatever group is disproportionately affected, doesn't help resolve that issue. It doesn't help get us to the next stage. And it also, the other aspect is that it changes the focus actually away from a way to find the solution. So then instead of going, well, as Dave just said, the DA and the lawyers don't care about who they're defending, and they don't care about the individuals involved, and they don't care about the victims. They don't care about the defendant. So they're not going to address that. We're just worried about the race of whoever's involved, and that doesn't lead us to a solution about fixing what happens with the lawyers and how the disputes are resolved, and that we're not looking for right and wrong. We're just looking at it through race, and that doesn't help things either.
It just makes things easier.
True. Yes.
For the masses, because they're going to believe what they're told.
By who? What are you talking about? Who's telling who what?
I'm just talking about people in general. I mean, so it's like you go out to, white suburbia, and, everybody's there, and you tell them, hey, a crime was just committed. The first thought, I'll say we'll be generous here. I'll say for half of those people, the first thought is going to be it was a black person, because that's what that's been depicted. You know, it's systemic racism, which is, oh my God, who's that? Anyways, sorry, I just got off on a tangent, but that's just whatever.
Well, and I was listening to a podcast today, and they were talking about how this woman, like, she was moving up from Mexico, and her mom was freaking out because all she saw on TV was black men getting handcuffed, and she was terrified because all she saw on the news was crimes and black men getting taken away in handcuffs. And so she's like, you don't go to America. There's so much crime all over the place. Everyone's getting shot. And especially don't go near any black men. And that was her family's depiction.
That's like, you can even go so far as like, everybody thinks Mexico is all, cartels, and you're going to get shot and, and sold into white slavery, whatever, by the cartel. But it's really, I've got friends who go to Mexico all the time, and they're like, yeah, well, the element's there. It's no more dangerous than it is here, except over there, you're not going to get prosecuted like you are here.
Right.
You don't think that makes it more dangerous in Mexico, that people aren't going to get prosecuted for it?
I think it's more motive. I don't know. It's just, it's like anywhere else. I'm not going to go into a bad neighborhood here and just go, hey guys, what's going on? Because I'm not stupid.
I do. I walked straight through 5th Ward, 3rd Ward. I lived out there in the southwest side. Your dog is more dangerous than those places.
Stay back, Nina. Chill.
She's going for my hands.
He says he doesn't play. He doesn't play with her.
I'm not playing with her. I'm trying to keep her. I'm trying to calm her down over here. And I'm playing with her, but I'm not playing with her like that. Look. Am I playing with her right now? She just goes straight for my hand. Look, what do you know is in my?
Yeah.
What do you know?
I had to deal with a pocket beagle today who wanted to bite me, and I had to do every time she even tried to bite. I had to be no, and then take my hand away,
and then ignore her.
Yep.
Instead of doing this.
Yeah.
What am I doing? I'm petting her dog.
Don't pet her.
No.
Ignore her.
Yeah.
I can't. She's in my lap.
Cross your arms.
I can't. I got a dog slobber on.
And these are the serious issues, the serious criminal justice issues we tackle here on the Shakedown, are dog slobber. And
I'm still, even though I feel a little bit better about it after we were earlier about this topic, I still don't really feel like I totally get what you're saying. I'm not convinced by how you put it that we should or should not be speaking about such issues. I can see an argument otherwise. Also, but I do think that people are a bit obsessed with the race issue more so than they are the race aspect of almost any issue than they are with the issue itself.
Well,
just by not focusing on that, by taking your attention away from that alone will aid in isolating the actual issues that you're trying to fix, as opposed to trying to isolate the nebulous issue of what's going on inside people's heads and their motivations whenever they do whatever they do.
Well, to me, the simplest way to put it is this. The race issue has been an issue in this country since before it was founded. The race issue.
It's probably been an issue in the world, in this whole entire world, since before this nation was founded.
Right. And so there's that aspect of it. Now we're dealing, and then on top of it, there's the criminal justice problems, which have their own unique history. Now, some of that history directly stems from the racist aspect, which is like part of the reason, when slavery ended, the first thing the South did was they made specific things crimes like that black people are doing. It's why loitering became a criminal offense, because then they could jail them and then they got their slaves back. And then they could use them again. That's why, like, slavery did come into play in that. But the way we're using the problems we're having with criminal justice now are now distinct from the race issue. And when you bring race into it, now you're trying to solve the race problem and you're trying to solve the criminal justice problem at the same time. And those are two very big problems. So I say, why not just stick to one giant problem? And honestly, like, even when I talk about it, like, I have to break down, like, criminal justice into segments because there's so many parts of it that, like, you have to keep on going smaller and smaller and smaller. And even when I just say prison has its own unique set of problems before you even get into race. So it's race brings in a new set of problems where it's such a big issue on its own, it needs to be separated out. I'm not saying it's not an issue. That's for sure. It is 100% an issue. It's just, it doesn't help to resolve the overall issue, is my point.
I get that. It's a contributing factor, but not.
Right.
It's a sub-issue. I wouldn't say it's a contributing factor. If you had no racism at all, I think what Rainforest's point is if there was no racism in Rainforest, criminal justice system at all, you would still have the problem that we're discussing would still be there.
Right. It would still be there, and it's like a Venn diagram. Racism has a whole big set of issues, and it intersects with the criminal justice issues. Now, it has problems that have nothing to do with criminal justice, too. It has way more problems. And then criminal justice has a whole bunch of problems that have nothing to do with race, either. So that's.
Did you witness at all did you have any personal experiences while you were there that illustrated racism in prison? That you think needs to be addressed?
We talked about it. I mean, we talked about some of the stuff. Well, when Dave and I did an episode where we talked kind of about the kind of how prison kind of makes you, like, you get grouped into your different races, and then you kind of see things as because you're in your race group, you think about, like, when you're sitting and watching the TVs, and then you have and you see, like, the immediate thing I think of is the group that was sitting and watching the TVs at, like, Gurney would be all the blacks would be sitting out in front of the TVs. And then I couldn't hear anything that's going on the TV because they're sitting there yelling at it the entire time. And
You are not the father.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, and then never before had I ever thought until prison, I'm like it's like the thought comes in my head. It's like those, like, why do they have to act like that? And it's not. That's a thought that I don't think would have ever crossed my mind until prison, and until that crazy situation. But it's also because of the way we were housed, and the way that they housed everything too.
Well, I mean, prison, they used to separate you by color too.
Right.
When did they do that?
The very first time I was in prison, like, you had, like, if you were in a 2-man cell, you were with. If you were white, you were with white. If you were black, you were with black.
You're talking about in the diagnostic phase at prison?
Diagnostics, yeah, definitely.
Is that the only? Or you're saying that whenever you hit your unit, they actually segregated you?
They did it at Clemens unit too. Like, not in the dorms, obviously, but they did in the cell blocks.
I have never in 30 years experienced that, except for when I first get there and they started going through the diagnostic process, and they don't know if you're going to be some kind of have some kind of race issue. They can't put, even though even in the diagnostic phase, they actually put me in a cell. They actually desegregated my housing, and I was in a cell with a black guy. They actually had me down as being black on the paperwork.
That's why you were in cell with a black guy.
I know it.
No, I don't think in my entire time that I was in a cell with a Caucasian. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I've so rarely experienced it. It seems to me they made a point of doing the absolute opposite.
But I feel like that was later. Like I feel like earlier on, they used to do it, and then I feel like something happened, and then they changed it up. But I could be wrong.
They used to, but yeah, exactly. I don't know why they stopped doing it, but they did.
Well, actually, I will tell you one thing that caused a lot of problems was like the officers from Africa, which I always found this really interesting. The officers from Africa really hated African American inmates. Like
they used to hear it all the time from them, but it's like they don't like American black people.
They did not, especially inmates, because they thought they were like the worst representations of them, and they would make sure to take it out on them, like in whatever way they could, and like they would not.
Is that an act of racism? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean there was a lot of times where people would listen to me. Yeah, over.
Racism.
It is. We just said, of course, it is an act of racism.
Yeah, it is.
How it is. I mean, you're talking about the same race. That's not racism.
Okay, so I guess it is. It's just like saying like people like just like Mexican people don't like people from El Salvador or from different South American countries. It's the same thing. It's just like the Africans don't like the American blacks. They think, well, you hear them all the time. They say, oh, they're lazy. They have all these generalizations of what they think, and so yeah, that's.
I don't see that as racism. I see that as the same thing as how I used to feel about all this Aryan Brotherhood stuff. I remember you even asked me when y'all asked me whenever I was in prison with Rainforest one time. He said at the table and asked me, "How come you never fell in with those guys?" And I explained to him, I don't even look at them. I explained to I told Rainforest, I find those people extremely distasteful. I think that they're just disgusting people all the way around. I can get into all their, specific behaviors and all that, but that's not really the point. The point is that I see them the exact same way those Africans see these other guys.
So that's kind of racist.
It's not racist. I don't hate them because of their race. I hate them because of their particular behavior of this gang.
But
it has nothing to do with their race.
But Malone,
but it does.
It does. But the thing, at the end of the day, what happens is the end result, regardless of intention, is that
if you dislike the guys that are in the Aryan Brotherhood, I'm a racist?
No,
that doesn't make any sense.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's
not at all.
What I'm saying is that officers and I'm sure staff treated the black inmates differently than they did me. And you can, whether it was intentionally, unintentionally, whether it was because they were whether they came from Africa and they didn't like the way that African Americans acted. The reason.
Just cross your arms. Don't look at her. Cross your arms. Just cross your arms.
And
oh God, I got dogs.
And please, everyone listening at home or watching at home, I would love to hear your comments on whether or not Malone is playing with the dog.
He is.
you please, yes or no, because Malone's not going to listen to us. So we need your people at home.
I'm just trying to get the dog out of my way so I can watch, so I can pay attention to what's going on.
I've been watching for half an hour now.
I've been watching for a lot longer, and I've seen a lot worse with these two. Trust me.
So anyway,
this is playing with the dog.
But
she brought this over here for me to play with her with.
But no, seriously. Okay, well, so take your point, right? You said, okay, so if you rolled up on a new dorm and you walked in there and say it was a worker dorm. So everybody's at work except for there's like 4 people in there, right? 2 black guys, and then some white dude that's all tatted up with lightning bolts all over the place, and then Ryan.
Yeah. What about it? If I saw that, what?
What are you going to talk to first?
I know,
You're going to
I
automatically
know that
assume.
No.
You just said you don't like the people,
No.
all those the white
You know
supremacist
how many
guys
people-
because of what they represent. So I mean, if you see this guy who, by just looking at him, represents everything that all these white power people do, you're just gonna automatically assume that he is one of them. So you would probably go talk to Ryan first.
I'm not, and I know that's the immediate assumption that I would.
But didn't you just say that you didn't like them because of?
I don't like them, but that doesn't just because I see the character, the hallmarks of them and tattoos and all that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to think that that's what they are, because I know too many of them that have gotten away from that stuff in prison, that have been locked up in the early 90s whenever all that stuff meant something different. It was a completely different situation. And then whenever later on they realized that was nonsense. So I mean, I don't necessarily instantaneously, but that's a nuanced type of thing. I know the immediate.
That sounds good. That's all I'm going to say.
And I'm going to say this: we're 4 minutes away.
None of y'all ever met anybody in prison that had swastikas tattooed on them and all kinds of other racist nonsense, and end up being a really good person.
I have. Oh man.
It was not a part of they were no longer a part of all that nonsense. Didn't believe it. They made a bunch of mistakes when they were young and put that crap on their body because they were in a much different situation.
Regardless, it doesn't matter what they could be whatever, holy roller do-gooder, it doesn't matter. The first thing people are going to see is their tattoos and all this hate speech they got all over them, and they're gonna make it.
Have I ever told you the story of my cellie? Who loved tattoos, but he had mental problems, and like he got the whole Last Supper tatted on his abs, and then one day, and he got this beautiful like artistic rendition of it tattooed on his abs. And then one day I come back to the cell and his whole chin is black and he has this like hand-drawn cross under his eye. And he has in white, like the left blank under his chin, it says like John 3:15 or something on his chin. It is the 2 ugliest tattoos I've ever seen. And he had never said anything about this. He's like, hey, can you notice? I'm like, what happened?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like,
You totally disfigured yourself.
Right, exactly. And he had lost his mind. But the point is like, the second that guy, like he was dating one of the guards and everything, all that kind of stuff. That all fell off after that because like people judge that stuff. And
people judge that stuff. And I might judge some crazy stuff like that too if I see a crazy face tattoo. I'm not necessarily talking about that. I mean, look, you and I both were a part of the Enhanced Jewish Program in Texas prison. The one and only.
The one and only.
And in that program, there were guys who before your time, came and went, who were as Jewish as anybody could possibly be, with lightning bolt tattoos down the side of their face on both sides.
Horrible life choices, people. Horrible life choices.
Yeah.
Right.
The moral of the story is don't get tattoos on your face.
Yeah. Don't ever.
Darn sure don't get Nazi symbolism tattooed on your face.
And even
especially if you're Jewish.
But I need to say this. So we're like right at the end of the show, and we've been talking about this for 10 minutes. And this is my main point. All this discussion on tattoos, all this discussion on racism, has this helped clarify for anyone what we need to do to improve the criminal justice system? Any of it.
That could very well be the lack of our ability to convey the proper point, more so than
fact.
Fair. That's
facts.
Could be a
Did
fair
we
point.
confuse more people? Because if you did, that was our goal.
Well, I guess on that happy note, I'm still standing by the fact that.
Understanding. Yeah.
And once again, I'm always happy to have this debate. If anyone wants to leave notes in the comments, their thoughts, whatever, please hit us up, leave comments, tell us your thoughts. And we're happy to hear more. And we'll catch you next. What's that?
You're right. And we can talk about it later.
Exactly.
Actually, that's the whole point, is that we're not trying to talk about this. We're trying to get it all, air that issue out right now so that it can be dropped.
I don't think it could be aired out in like 100 episodes, but that's just my personal opinion.
It might not be, but at
We
least
can air it out in 100 episodes, that's for sure.
That's because we're like the Three Stooges, but that's okay.
we can all, but now we have this episode. I can reference it back and say, we had this discussion. This is why we don't talk about it. And on that, we can end this episode. And we can catch everyone next week or in a couple weeks on the Shakedown.
And if anybody has any suggestion on like a matte sort of finish that you can put on Ryan's head to knock down that, we'd gladly, we need that.
I say fedora. And don't worry, next time I'll have my head freshly shaved and shined up for you too.
Excellent. The Shakedown was produced at Longmont Public Media. And our theme song, Shakedown, was brought to you by Envato Elements. If you want any Shakedown merchandise, or you want to support the show, you can go to waywordpress.com. That's WAYWORD press.com.